Welcome to Crimson Guitars, welcome to my home studio, and welcome to a slightly delayed Luthiers question time. This is episode 78. It is a live stream which gets turned into a podcast, which is, it's somewhere where I answer your questions generally about guitar building, but you know what, pretty much anything goes. So, welcome. It is Sunday. It is 8 p.m. UK time, and we've got a bunch of you guys in-house already. We've got Frugal Fixer Guitars, Robert R. Wolford Guitars, Borgonian Evolution, Carol Wood, Creever, Old Man Bill, recently changed his name just from Bill. I think, much like me, he's realised actually my youth 'tis behind me. One can either embrace or run away from this thing. I'm not sure which decision I've made yet. One of the kids was running around yesterday asking for something. I can't remember what. And I was like, well, do you want a grown-up or an adult? Because there's two completely separate things. And he says, I'll go to mummy. Anyhow, so this does not work if you don't ask me questions in the chat. Super chats will 100% be answered, and as the evening goes, the chat tends to run rather rapidly. If your question is in there, if I see it, I will answer, but that is a big if. So here we go. Frugal Fixer says, I just used the heat temp gun on the Shopsmith cover. It is not ran in 24 hours, but reads 109.5. It is hot in my woodshop. Crikey, I am rather happy that I don't have to deal with things like that. It hit 21 degrees or so here this weekend, and I was complaining about that. Anyway, so greetings everybody. Bone Cruncher, I saw VCS the Bone Cruncher says, I glued in a neck today and await to see, and I'm having trouble with a finish test. Finishes cause issues. Oftentimes, unfortunately. Sweet Tea Guitars, how you doing, Sweet Tea? Paul Needs. Sweet Tea's in the middle of an edit for his GGBO video. I'm enjoying what's going on that channel at the moment, particularly. Lucifer builds as well. Casey McDermott. Jaybird Customs. Yeah, we're all here. Beth McKellar's in the house, complaining about rain. And here we go. Oh, look at that. We actually have a question. I've just gone through what I can see of the chat so far, and nothing Luthiery related. I suppose I should just... okay, here we go. So Sweet Tea Guitars has come in with the first super chat of the evening with a question. He says, I'll kick this off. Thoughts on asymmetrical neck profiles. Okay, so many musicians, many guitar builders are very narrow-minded indeed, and they do not want to try new things out. They just don't. But if you do an asymmetrical neck well, it does feel very, very comfortable, and it's quite easy for a guitarist to come into the fold. Now, this depends on several things. If you've been playing a, I don't know, baseball bat, old Les Paul neck for the last 40 years, then anything that we do as a luthier to improve on a guitar will feel alien to them, and they're just not going to adopt that. But if you get somebody in the first few years, or first 5 or 10 years, or somebody who's got issues with ergonomics and, I don't know, carpal tunnel or tennis elbow, that sort of thing, then an asymmetrical neck is always something to have in our quiver, as it were, to help potentially solve any issues, or at least ameliorate them and make life easier. Now, there are many different flavors of these things as well, and that is kind of the issue. So I'm half thinking about twisted necks, which isn't actually an asymmetrical neck. A twisted neck is where it goes, and at the nut, the nut end is twisted away from your body so that your wrist doesn't bend in the same well, actually stays nice and straight and there's no tension on there. An asymmetrical neck could be fatter on the base side of the neck and just go straight along, and it's essentially along the angle following the strings, and it's just a fatter shape, so an offset D shape or an offset V or something like that. Alternatively, as your hand is moving down the neck, you could have an asymmetrical neck where that fat segment goes from one side of the center line to the other, and that follows again how your hand would want to play. And it's been a very, very interesting process to watch these things develop. There was a forum, it might even still be here, called Building the Ergonomic Guitar, and that is where a lot of these initial ideas came about 20 years ago. And now we've got Strandberg. I mean, that's where he was talking about all of his ideas, well, we were all talking about all of those ideas, and that's what happened. Would never have believed that it would end up taking over the world to quite this extent, but hey, it's awesome. Speaking of technicalities, let me know if the stream goes all right. I've been having very weird issues with the internet recently, and I had to completely cut off power to... Anyway, problems. We'll see. Here's another question. This is from Vicious, the Bone Cruncher. Thank you very much, Vicious, who says, hi Ben, would you apply anything between a stained flame maple top and a 2K spray max polyurethane clear? The dye is fluffing up the grain a lot, or will... okay, this is an autocorrect. Will intercity sanding fix? No spray booth. Will interstitial sanding fix it? Okay, so your issue is the stain is being applied and it is fluffing up the grain. Now, to answer your initial question, yes, we do add something in between our stained tops and the final coat of lacquer, and essentially it's a higher build polyurethane that has far more solids in it than the beautiful top coat. And essentially that allows us to build up in one or two coats, depending on which finishes we happen to be using, the same amount of finish that you would get in 3 or 4 coats of just the top coat. Okay, generally just one coat. So yes, that isn't, however, going to solve your problem. Your problem is that you are sanding your guitar down to 240 or 320 grit and then just straight applying stain over the top. Now, if that is a spirit-based stain, like the Crimson Stunning Stains, Spirits, etc., got to get the plug in somehow. That's not going to be an issue because that doesn't raise the grain. It's the water in water-based stains, like the Crimson water-based stains, that then fluffs the grain up a little bit, and you have to rub that back. Now, what we do is we will, prior to applying the stains, we dampen down the whole guitar, and if we're feeling lazy, just the top that's going to be stained. You dampen down the top with a damp rag, not wet, just damp enough to hit the top, the same amount of wetness as you would apply with a stain, to be honest. Let it dry for a couple of minutes and you'll notice the color leaching out, and you'll end up with a fluffy top. You then sand that back at the same grit that you were before. So if you stopped at 320 grit, sand at 320 grit. If you really want to, you could sand at 400 or whatever, but it's probably not necessary at this point. And then if you repeat that process 2, maybe 3 times, the top will stop fluffing up. And when you apply the stain, the water-based stain, you won't get that fluffy finish that is your current issue. And there we have it. Question answered, and we're all good. I would also like you, if you're okay, to let me know how the sound is tonight. I've gone back to the basic setting that has got noise cancelling and all of that jazz. Although Creevery, I'm happy to delete that halfway through if you're interested. And I've taken Creevery's advice, and I've got the Sennheiser EWG4 100 something microphone set. Finally, this is something that I've wanted for many years, and every time we've gone and bought new, we've just gone for a budget option, and unfortunately I've gone through a lot of budget options, far more in value than a good set of Sennheiser or comparable wireless mics. So yeah, anyway, there we go. I was leaving that for the show, Creever. Just to say thank you very much for your recommendation. Okay, Sweet Tea says my GGBO build will have an asymmetrical neck profile up to about fret 7, and then it will standard out. I like that. I like the way of saying it will standard out. This will either be for me, or I will donate the build to the GGBO. Method revealed in the new video. This would be the second build that you have donated to a charity or for a good cause or given away in a row, if I'm not wrong. Honestly, I would say keep it yourself. But if you want to GGBO it, then we would maybe we could raffle it off or something, but seriously, keep it. You deserve to enjoy some of the largesse yourself, young man. Okay, and then there's a next question here from Frugal Fixer Guitars. Frugal Fixer Guitars, he says, can I ask for some positive vibes and prayers for my dad? His COVID got worse. He's been admitted to the hospital yesterday. He's 88. Thanks, my family. We are, but yeah, nothing quite competes with actual blood family, either for good or ill. But yeah, we are. Our thoughts are with you, man. The fact that COVID is out of the news at the moment doesn't mean that it's gone away. There are still, in this country, there are still thousands of people in the hospital, many of them with pre-existing conditions, but they have COVID, and a lot of people are still dying from it. And yeah, it is not good. So yeah, I hope he gets better and fast. Okay, George Davis says, I hit the big 6.5 yesterday, entering the final chapter of my life, building guitars. You've got a good 20 or 30 years ahead of you. I'm very much looking forward to retiring around about there and building even more. Okay. David Loveland says, hey Ben, hey David, how you doing? I love seeing all these green names. It's people who are channel members, and yeah, I appreciate their support. It also means that their questions are sort of flashed up for me because their names are bright, and the eye tends to go there. All right, Sawdust Passion. Woohoo! Sawdust Passion's come with a question saying, first neck build, where do I start? What's the best order? Okay, look, I've done I've done thousands of guitar building videos on YouTube, and a lot of projects where most of them I've built the neck from scratch. Okay, and essentially the method does not change and hasn't changed very much in all that time. It is a case of starting with your neck blank. If you are going to have an angled headstock, then either put in a scarf joint at this point to add an extra piece on, or cut the piece in half to do that. This process is available. You can check it out online. Route the truss rod. If you're going to use carbon fiber stiffening rods, use carbon fiber stiffening rods. The fretboard then goes on over the truss rod, etc. Radius the fretboard, do the inlays, radius the fretboard, cut the fret slots, install the inlays, install the frets, while the back of the neck is still rectangular. All of these processes are easier if you've got a nice firm base on which to work. Now, the one thing I would say is at Crimson, for example, we are now making the fretboards, cutting the fret slots, etc. on the CNCs before they're on the neck. Cutting fret slots by hand in a thin, flimsy fretboard is a little bit more fiddly, and I find it quite annoying. So with that slight difference in in order. You might cut the fret slots and do the inlays before installing them on the neck. I generally would suggest putting the frets in on when the fretboard is already glued onto the neck. It's not absolutely essential, but that's how I prefer to do things. Once the fretboard is perfectly finished, in fact it's the first part of an entire guitar build that is basically as it will be when it is played, then you go in and you carve the neck, you cut the headstock out and all that sort of stuff. And drill holes, carve, shape, sand, etc. That was a surprisingly stressful question to answer. Okay, I ended up buying the mobile version. I'm using more batteries, and I will have times when I run out of battery, but I would rather have the flexibility and I would also, at this point, I don't want to buy two because I would need a mobile version to go around with, and I'd like to have a quality one when I am off shooting. Now, the other thing I did purchase is a Rode Pro Plus on mic boom mic that isn't currently set up on any of these cameras, but will also be used. So we'll see what works out best. Yeah. Bulgarian Evolution says, Sennheisers are the only mics I work with. Creever says, you're welcome, and your viewers will thank you. It's incredible how much difference the audio makes to a video. It really does. No hiss, no buzz. Rob Ashby says, best sound in a long time. Okay, that's excellent. Thank you very much. Perfect. Okay. Whew. And VCS the Bone Cruncher says, thank you for answering the stain question. That was exactly what he wanted. Micah Noel sanded some bloodwood the other day and stained his blue shirt with a big purple spit. I'm careful enough with stains and paints, but I didn't account for sawdust, I tell you. Yeah, I've ruined a fair few items of clothing over the years. Okay, so come on then, there's been a few more questions come through. And we've been going for 17 minutes, and I'm starting to get back into the stream of things. Okay, Sporadic Amnesic. That is a really good name. It really is. Evening, Ben. I hope all is well with you and the family. Are there any guitar shows London way that you know of? And if so, will you guys be going again? As far as I am aware, we are going to be at the Kempton Park Racecourse for a guitar show. It's a few months away, closer towards the end of the year, maybe. I'm not entirely sure. You'll have to Google that. But yes, I'm planning on going. Hell, even if I'm only visiting as a member of the public, I will be there. But I'm hoping that Crimson will be there. I really am. Other than that, there are, I think, a few smaller shows, but nothing big. I'm not sure. I've lost track of them all. This is the problem. I've delegated that side of things to other people, and yeah, I've now lost track. Casey McDermott from Theta, must be Theta Guitars, says, working with some very chippy maple, trying to make a top. Is there a way to reduce chip out in a planer when grain direction is all over the place? No. Okay. In a planer, go as gentle as you humanly can. Put a brand new set of blades on, and also sacrifice some Paduk to the gods or something. I don't know. Pour out some mead. Say the words to Sweet Child of Mine out 3 times. I don't know. It's so scary when you've got a cross-grained piece of wood. It's really difficult. Okay, now, if you've got perfectly sharp blades and you are only taking off 1/10 of a millimeter at a time, even with that, putting the piece of wood through a planer that's thunking through is potentially going to cause some damage. Now, it is for exactly this reason that I upgraded a long time ago. It was the first professional machine, really, that I ended up buying, and it felt great. And that was a Felder planer thickness, 410 millimeters wide, I think, if I recall correctly. But the kicker is that it's got a helicoidal cutter block on it. Now, you can buy helicoidal cutter blocks as upgrades to many standard machines. And what it means is you've got, instead of 2 or maybe 3 straight blades around the cutter block, and essentially a straight blade will just smack into the wood. And it's going really fast, but it's still going smack, 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 smack. And that is hitting the wood and hitting it square on and forcing a chip to come out. And that is what's causing your issue, especially if you're taking a deep pass. With a helicoidal cutter block, firstly, the blades are at a slight angle. So in the same way that when I'm using a small plane, instead of planing square, let's do it that way, right down the length of the wood, oftentimes I will angle the plane, and that is, and also go off to the side, and that is slicing the wood in the same way as a helicoidal cutter block. It's effectively reducing the angle of the plane blade, and it's not taking a large chunk out with each pass. It's taking a small bit and moving along gently. Okay, 3 blades rather than 2 is an improvement. And also, helicoidal cutter blocks have lots of different little blades, a little 4-sided square blades generally, almost exclusively. I don't know of any that aren't. So, and they stay sharper for longer, and if you have one that gets a chip, you just flip it around and go from there. And I've had nothing but beautiful things to say about using a helicoidal cutter block. That being said, the most recent professional machine that I just bought was at auction. I think new, it's something like £15,000 or so. Secondhand, it's about £9,000 or £10,000 generally. And I bought, delivered and installed a really large, not too old, say 10 or 15-year-old belt sander, so a sander thicknesser, a wide belt sander, that's what they call them. And we were very, very lucky. It was at auction, and we just managed to find one. And this is the true answer to your question. Find somebody with a wide belt sander. Guaranteed there is going to be a furniture maker in your town or city who has got one. And most people, when you show an interest in what they do, are more than happy to share. In general, people are not arseholes. And if you say, hey, look, I'm building a guitar, this is the thing, it's chipping out, please, could you put this through your sand thicknesser for me? There is no blade hitting it. It's just sanding it, and if it's gone through gently, you will have 0 tear out. That was a long answer, but there we go. I like to talk. What can I say? The Big Unit, hey Big Unit, how you doing? Says, is it possible to use a 3/8 of an inch thick quilt maple for a carved top? If not, could you glue it over a plain carved top as a thick veneer? 3/8 of an inch is like 9 millimeters or so, I think. Hold on. Yeah, 9.5, 10 millimeters. Okay. I mean, technically, yes. You could have a very gentle carve, and that would be fine. If you want a carve that's accentuated, like a Les Paul, etc., then you want to... I would fake things. I would... Excuse me, my lungs are still a little bit shot. I would fake things. I would I would route my binding channel. I would say use binding on this. I would route the binding channel so that the top of the channel, so the top of the binding is only 1 or maybe 2 millimeters higher than the glue joint between the bottom of your maple and the whatever body wood you are using. That way, the blank actually looks like it's about 15 or 16 millimeters thick. Now be very careful not to recarve down through the body. This is why I said 2 millimeters, not just 1. But that is a good way to fake the look of a very thick top while not actually having that much material. But yes, you could glue it onto another 5 or 6 millimeter piece of maple if you wanted to, and build up the height that way. But again, you would need to have binding just to hide that glue joint. So there we go. Rich Ether, hey Rich, how are you? Rich Ether says, I just wanted to say Boba Fett arrived and it's incredible. Thumbs up. Congratulations on winning the build. I'm sorry it took quite so long to ship out to you. I thought it had been with you for a while, and then yeah, it didn't. But yeah, I'm really glad that she's there. I'm really glad that you love her, and yeah, it's such an interesting and strange instrument to play that the Bond stepped fretboard does take some getting used to. But yeah, I hope that you're currently going through that honeymoon. I'm inspired to play guitar all day, every day time, which is always fun. So yeah. All right. Ooh, children asking for more time on computers. I never know if I'm going to be allowed to do that or not, because I'm here and my wife is up at the house. But anyway, now there are some questions here that I need to get to in a bit via the Discord, so check out the Crimson Discord. Before I get to those though, I am going to go through the rest of the super chats that we've got. Disco Stew, hey Disco Stew, says, sold a nice guitar on Reverb today. Reminding me I need to go and talk to the guys at Reverb. I celebrated with a takeaway. Takeaway came with a free beer. Enjoying said beer now with the Crimson family. Love all. Congratulations. It's kind of like a boat. Sometimes the two best days of owning a guitar are owning it the day you buy it and the day you sell it. Sadly, that's yeah, it's the way it goes. But we still do it, don't we? And yeah, enjoy the beer. I actually could do with one myself right now. Kiwi Quarters, how you doing? Says, hey Ben, just got all of the parts for my GGPO kit build. What's the most sensible order of operations to make the deadline? Unfinished wood, everything. I mean, yeah, it's a standard kit guitar. To be honest, it's literally just going to be a case of fine sand, do any shaping that you need to do first, of course. If you're going to be customizing the shape of the kit in any way, fine sand, add the finish that you're going to do, which is generally the longest part. Please test fit the hardware and pieces beforehand, drill any holes before you get to the finishing process. And yeah, the last thing I do is frets and fretwork. Essentially, I'm worried that if I'm going to be adding finish to a neck, let me actually dig into this. I do the fretwork last because that gives the neck the absolute longest time while it is in my care to move and change. Generally, I'm building from scratch, so I'll be carving a neck out of a blank or a multi-laminate blank or something like that. And at that point, you're removing stress from the neck. Now, that stress generally moves very quickly and then the neck sets into its final form, more or less. If you're gonna have twist, you should see it fairly soon. Because there's always that one neck that just comes and slaps you in the back of your bald head, I tell ya. But yeah, that's it. Finish, fretwork, and then put the hardware on, and you're away. And you know, for a kit build, you have enough time. You absolutely have enough time. I mean, who needs a job anyway? I suppose it helps when buying kit guitars, doesn't it? Okay. Okay. Sporadic Amnesic says, Kempton Racecourse Guitar Show is October 30th. I hope to see you guys there. Me too. Come and introduce yourself as Sporadic Amnesic and then give me your real name, because I will remember that. Okay. And thank you for letting us know. The big unit says, going off my last question, can you get a 3/8 of an inch board to glue to the carved top? How do you get a board that thick to bend to the top shape? You wouldn't do that. You would just glue two flat boards together and then carve the top one away. Essentially, you're making a thick 6/8 of an inch. What's that? 3/4 of an inch. Yeah, so you're making a 3/4 of an inch thick board out of two with the cheaper wood on the bottom, and that's just to push it up higher. You still must absolutely make sure to not carve through to the lower substrate of wood, because that, while it could look good, probably wouldn't. Not unless it was done very, very precisely and on purpose. Bending, taking something that's carved, for example, like a Les Paul, and making a piece of wood bend to match that is the sort of thing that you do if you've been building guitars or are a master craftsman and have been doing it for a very, very long time, or happen to have a giant steam-powered hydraulic press, and even so, it's generally veneers that are glued in those shapes rather than thick chunks of wood. Jay's Trucking says, good afternoon, Surrey. I'm late, overslept. I honestly thought you were in from the beginning. Luthier Build says, Ben, looks like you have a thing on the end of your chisel behind you. What is it? Oh, I do. Well spotted. Okay, where are we? So this is, let's get that charger out the way. Hopefully we don't need it. So this is a Stanley, it's a little plane that basically sits on the end of your chisel. I'm not entirely sure if I've actually got it the right way. I don't think I did, actually, come to think of that. No, I did. Okay. Well, there we go. I've not used it. There we go. So essentially what this is for, it's to hide nail holes in the wood. You push the plane into the wood and then pull it backwards, and it'll raise a flap of wood. You then put your nail underneath that and then glue the flap back into the hole. Funnily enough, that little pressed steel bent thing, that's worth a good 300 quid, maybe more at the moment. Absolutely crazy. But yeah, this is the joy of being a tool collector and also owning a vintage tool shop where stuff like that comes in the bottom of boxes and nobody even knows it was there. So yeah, auctions. Yeah, I tell ya. Alrighty, woohoo! I've come to a point. We've got 149 people watching at the moment. Only 61 of you have clicked likes, so I'm hurt. But you know, we'll get there. Questions via the Crimson Guitars Discord, links to that in the description, etc. Hi Ben, what size and type of magnets do you use when using a magnetically attached cover plate? I've done some guitar mods, but watching your channel has inspired me to build a guitar from scratch. I have some beautiful wood now to get my start. Congratulations and thank you for your support. Generally, I will use the largest magnets that I can get away with, and the most stable back plates that I can get away with. So I generally have a 3 or a 4 millimeter thick neodymium magnet. I use round ones, so say 4 millimeters thick by 8 millimeters round, the circumference, not the circumference, you know what I mean. Big round chunky magnets. Those on both sides, the top and inside the cavity. Now they're very strong magnets, but they're only very strong within a small distance. These things will not affect your pickups unless they're right next to the pickups. They will not affect the strings unless they're right next to the strings. The half-life of a magnet is whatever, you know what I mean. That's not the correct term for this. Okay, now watch a recent video. I'm not even sure if it's gone live yet. On the baritone guitar, I magnetically attached the truss rod covers, and I'm fairly sure it was done in a live stream. It might be in the video that went live last night. If not, it'll be coming out on Wednesday or Saturday this week. But in that, I went through my whole process of installing the magnets, making absolutely certain that the polarity, the north and south ends of the magnet were correctly oriented. Because the last thing you want to do is glue everything in, inlay it, etc., 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 and then find that one of your 3 or 4 magnets is repelling and the others are attracting. It's just star-crossed lovers, Romeo and Juliet, and you know, all that stuff. Okay, Crazy Steve 190 says, "Hey Ben, I recently acquired a treadle-powered Drummond round bed lathe, and started restoration efforts. It did not come with its change gears or chuck. What would be your advice for sourcing replacement parts?" Chucks generally are fairly easy, even that old. It'll have a 7/8 of an inch or inch thread with an easy to measure thread, and that generally is what goes onto the fits straight onto the lathe. If not, you can measure the attachment that's on your lathe, make a face plate onto which you can attach a modern chuck of whatever you want. So essentially you've got just a round chunk of steel that you've put the correct thread on. That goes onto the lathe, and then you bolt very carefully so it's all true, etc. You bolt whatever chuck you want on there. With regards to gears and all of that, it's an absolute minefield. Now, Drummond, relatively large, they made quite a few lathes, if I recall correctly, but nowhere near like Myford, for example, where I can go and reliably still find the parts I need for a Myford, which is great because I use a Myford ML7. Look at this. Okay, let me finish the question. I have a friend with a high-resolution 3D printer that can print with carbon fiber reinforced filament. Would that be good enough for the gears? Yes. And if so, how would I figure out the dimensions need to be? I have the original tooth numbers. I mean, that's it. You should be able to find documents that would have come originally with the lathe that would tell you all of these things. But this is the problem with restoring old tools and specifically old machines. Information is sometimes you've got a glut on certain things. Oh, this is the chuck, etc., etc. But you know, other bits and pieces you just don't know. So, unfortunately, it's time to get your calculator out and actually figure it out from first principles. That would be entirely beyond me. 100% not my game. But yeah, if you can do that, good luck. Alrighty. Tutum Carmen says, would covering almost the entire front of a guitar body in a big inlaid design using multiple types of materials cause any long-term issues? Are there any materials I should avoid when doing this? I currently plan to use aluminium, abalone, mother of pearl, contrasting woods, and possibly even 3D printed resin parts. Sounds awesome. No, basically, we're not talking about acoustic guitars here, and even so, check out a lady whose name I've completely forgotten, a luthier whose name I've completely forgotten, who's entered into the... crikey, I've forgotten even the name of the damn category. GGBO, and she's built an incredible acoustic guitar which has got marquetry all over the top, and it actually sounds great. I think hers was the first instrument fully completed in the series. Really impressive. So yeah, the only issue you've generally got with this sort of stuff is that sometimes long-term bits and pieces will delaminate or shrink because you're using metals and woods and different woods and all sorts of stuff. So make sure all the wood is nice and dry, and you should be good. I have done things, I think, I doubt I still have photographs of these things, but many years ago I did a twin neck guitar that had two fighting dragons on it, a male and a female sort of fighting, and the heads went down the necks and the bodies, if I recall, sort of intertwined on the body. It's, you know, and of course I was inspired by the PRS dragons, which are absolutely incredible. So yeah, do it, have fun, go wild. Okay. And I'm just having, you should go and check out the Discord. Spike's Frugal Fixer Guitars, there we go, has uploaded a bunch of photos of his ABS guitar bodies made using it's a plastic that you can you heat it up and then push it over a mold, and you end up with something similar to what Ovation were doing, etc. And yeah, it's really interesting. It's also a process used a lot to make models and, well, all sorts of stuff in your life right now. But I'm seeing these for the first time, and they look pretty freaking cool. Experimenting time? Okay, and there we go. I'm at the end of the Discord, and we're good. So, news. What news? Changes at Crimson. I interviewed a new workshop manager who shall remain nameless for the moment. But I'm very, very excited by that. It's going to allow. We've had a lot of trouble with staffing over the last 2 or 3 years, not necessarily due to COVID, just life. We had a few people who we let go who weren't quite good enough. And weren't working well within the training regimen, etc., and that sucked. But we also had a few very, very good and very valuable members of staff move on. Some to go and be musicians, others to go and try something else because they've been with us for 8 years, and other bits and pieces. And we just ended up, we ran out of good staff, and good staff in particular positions that were just empty after a while. Now, that being said, we have been on a major hiring thing over the last 3 to 6 months. We've got some incredible people who are now in the team across the tool making and kit building, production department, and the school has now got some new luthiers and just all sorts of stuff. But a new workshop manager and also web development is coming on, and research and development, tool development. There's a lot of stuff going on. I'm now a lot more involved personally in what's actually happening at the factory. I'm pulling back to a certain extent. I'm not going to be filming as much. Don't worry, you'll still be getting I'm a little bit ahead of myself at the moment with this base build that I'm going to be finishing tomorrow. But everything is looking up. I'm really, really, really excited about what's going to happen over the next couple of months. Now let's see if we have guitar-wise. Stephen Clark says, I just finished a full level crown on an old Rickenbacker, and man, are those frets small to start. I couldn't even round the ends, but it's set up nicely. Yeah, I've been there. I quite like small frets, I really do. In fact, I'm seriously considering using slightly lower medium jumbo frets than I currently use on the production guitars, because of, yeah, I personally prefer the feel, so, you know, I might as well. It's an absolute pleasure, Stephen. Okay. Patrick Nesbo says, Ben, I have a fairly porous top on my guitar. What finish should I use to get a very protective finish, but one that still looks natural? Those two things are nitro. I'm coming around to nitro. I avoided nitro for the entirety of my career so far, 20 odd years, because everybody asked for it, and I like to think I suffer from oppositional defiance disorder. If you tell me to do something, I am going the other damn way, I tell you. No, seriously, the issue is that so many people say that nitro sounds better, and while it has, I'm sure, a very small part to play in how a guitar sounds, it's not the be-all end-all. There are many, many other things that are more important, like, hey, pickups and capacitors and amplifiers and things. But I absolutely love the look of nitro, so I'm experimenting with it. But the nice thing is that a hand-applied nitro, even without hardeners, while if done properly at home in a warm workshop, 21, 23 degrees, something like that, you can get a very, very hard, very, very thin, beautiful looking finish that works. Now, an alternative is, if you are not wanting to enter that minefield, which I fully agree, understand and commiserate with, I would suggest building up a shellac base on the guitar. So just paint on the shellac like you would varnish. Apply. Rub it back with 1500 grit wet and dry paper or something like that till it's nice and flat. And then after that, apply 3 or 4 coats of high build guitar finishing oil. High build guitar finishing oil is back in stock at crimsonguitars.com right now. We finally managed to source the one last ingredient that we missed, by the way. So yeah, high build, 3 or 4 coats of high build guitar finishing oil over the top of that. That is about as protective as you can get with that kind of natural feeling finish, without then slathering on varnishes or lacquers, etc. In my opinion. Other opinions may vary, and let me know what you guys think. VC as the Bone Cruncher says, finishing tomorrow? Finishing? Finishing, so the bass is almost done. We completed the baritone last week. I need to complete the bass. My workshop extension here is painted internally, and I need to put together some damn IKEA stuff, and start preparing the move into that. It's a long, big project, but I really want to crack on now with the hand tool build. So yeah, I finished Jasmine's, finished the baritone, finished the bass. I need to finish the hand tool build and start GGBO and the watch inspired build, essentially. Lisa says, got a web person yet? Are you asking for a job or not? If so, drop us an email. We have a web person who's also doing some other stuff, but the main job and the web designing / putting together should be fine. It should not be too much for one person to do, but we're also interested in other options. Redhead17 says, hearing cricket mentioned in the radio earlier, it occurred to me that I've never heard of guitars being made out of willow. Is it not suitable for necks or bodies? I just don't think it grows big enough for bodies, but I'm not sure. Of course it does. I don't think it's something that people cut down very often. basically. And when they do, it goes to cricket bats. It's just like, I've got a box of stuff there I picked up at the tool shop the other day. Beautiful figured walnut blanks tend to go, Claro walnut, etc., tends to go to people who make rifle stocks or shotgun stocks. And I want it for guitars, but hey. Borgonian Evolution says, I forgot to ask multiple times what happened to Josh the paint dude. Josh, remember I mentioned oppositional defiance disorder earlier? Same sort of thing. He was very, very happy doing 14 different jobs, and not one of them awesomely, apart from probably the painting. But he had a lot of different roles that he'd sort of fallen into over the years. And when we started doing all of the organizing and actually dialing in and saying, okay, this is going to be your department, this is going to be your department, this is what you're going to do, or this is... I'm never so dictatorial. It's always a conversation. And the conversation with him was, you know, this is what we have planned. What do you think? And he says, actually, I'm going to go do my own thing. So he's off and he's doing his own thing, which is sad, but also, you know, a lot of people who work with me and a lot of people who have worked with me are very talented people who stick around for a while and then go off and do their own thing. And that's what we're a training ground for the Luthiers of the future, something like that. Uncle Duncan's Shack, woohoo, says casting gears, this is with regards to that earlier comment on a lathe, casting gears in urethane using a silicone mold is an option if an intact model is available. Otherwise, a printed model would do. That sounds awesome. Fluid Focus, a name I've not seen before, I don't think, says, I inlay the hell out of my guitar bodies. I've never had an issue with doing so. Fluid Focus, please send me stream at crimsonguitars.com. Send me a link to your work. I'd love to see that. Creeverite says, I just can't find any good vintage spoke shaves here in Germany. I think there is no other way than to order from the vintage tool shop. Max, please send me... Let me know what you want, and I personally will find one for you. And I owe you a present. So, but you'll also have to chase me. But we'll see what I've got in stock, and we can sort something out, I'm sure. Anthony Cunliffe. It says, real long shot, are there any jobs going at Crimson that can be done remotely within the UK at all? Mostly not. This is the issue. We've been able to fill... Seriously, Anthony, drop us an email, office@crimsonguitars.com, say Ben told me to, send us your CV, and yes, we will absolutely keep you on file and talk about you, desperately talk about you, and you know, see if there might be something. But at the moment, the big issue is tool makers. Not tool makers is the wrong term. Making the Luthiers tools is part of now the production department as a whole. We've expanded that so people are both spending time making tools and kit guitars and being trained to move through the ranks to become guitar builders for the other side of the guitars, which is the production guitars and then the custom shop, etc. So I'm putting in the structure of the company now with clear lines of, okay, you're not going to be stuck in this dead end, but you could, if you were interested in guitar building, start here, spend 3 or 4 years or 2 years or whatever, and then move through and percolate to various different parts of the business if you're interested. But that's where we've really struggled, is intelligent, hardworking individuals who can make tools and kit guitars and move forward. We've managed to employ the guitar builders we need in the school, although we're always looking for more, and the custom shop. And it's been a really, really shitty couple of years, to be honest. It really has. But with regards to customer services stuff and things done that could be done off-site, editing, etc., we're fairly full up. But still, send us your CV. and let us know. Absolutely interested. Oh, Barry Christian says, yep, that was today with the magnets on the truss rod cover. So that was in today's video. Thank you very much. Honestly, yesterday's video was supposed to be the entire finish of the baritone guitar, but Talitha countermanded me and, yeah, made it the penultimate guitar build. But anyway. Vax Hedrum says, magnetic field strength falls off at 1 over the distance cubed. I understand all of those words. The actual content of it, I don't know. Okay. Does Sean run his own company out of Crimson? How do you avoid conflict? That's from Mike Noel. No, yeah, not really, no. Luthiers are allowed, when they're working for us, to, in a limited fashion, build a few guitars a year to then sell on. But they aren't allowed to go much more than that. Now, Sean is one of the teachers in the school. He spends most of his time doing that, and I would not feel comfortable saying, hey, you're absolutely not allowed to build your own thing on the side as well. So yes, he does build a couple of guitars, etc., and some guitar stands and things like that to subsidize his income, and he does that out of the Crimson workshops because I'm an awesome boss. And while most bosses would absolutely say, nah, as long as it doesn't cause any issues, we're fairly chill. So yeah, but it's limited, it's not very much, and it's certainly not an extra full-time gig being made out of my factory. At that point, yeah, if we were going to do that, I don't know. It could be done, but it would be done in partnership, let's put it that way. Okay. ER Webster says, I really like the Crimson fret end file, but important public safety announcement. It also works great to cleverly conceal the feeler gauges you've spent 30 minutes looking for. I tell you, no matter how organized all of this crap looks, it's a sort of almost daily thing where I've lost a tool. And it's just, I was talking to an incredibly talented gentleman the other day who used to make clarinets, and I'm saying make the entire clarinet, including the whole keying system. Mind-blowingly talented. That's a real instrument maker. And he was talking about how at one point he made the most difficult part of this clarinet system. It was the last part he made. Did the heat treating, put it down, and cleaned bits and pieces, etc. And started putting this instrument together, and he could not find this part. And he had to spend another 4 or 5 hours making a replacement part. And he cleaned it, did the heat treating, etc., etc., put the new part down right next to the first one. And that is part of being a creative, I suppose. Anyhow, okay. ER Webster. Yeah, been there. Terry Love, how are you, Terry? Silly question, have you ever tried doing a French polish finish on a guitar? Terry, I am, one of my bucket list goals for this year, which is almost over already, it feels, is to go and actually have some proper training in applying French polish. Like, actively. I was at a medieval fair the other day, and there was somebody in the car park with a sign saying, hey, I do French polishing, not too far from me. I took a photograph of that man's van so that I could phone him up and say, hey, will you train me for a couple of days? The one time I tried it in a meaningful manner, I got a horrendous headache because I had cut the shellac with methylated spirits, and it was fairly ugh. And yeah, I just got a major headache. I didn't have enough ventilation. I should have been wearing a mask, etc. And that put me off. Now, you can cut it with a better solvent, a cleaner solvent, and wear proper gloves and all that sort of stuff. And that's essentially the thing. So I know the fundamentals of it. I've never done it properly myself. But I will soon, I hope. And the big units come in, says, I got an antique egg beater drill on eBay the other day. There are some old fluted bits in the handle. How would I sharpen them? Ooh, please send me photos, big unit. What you have got is a probably more modern version of one of these. This is a very early Miller's Falls #1, and if any of you find one of these, please call me. I will buy it from you. I absolutely love these drill bits. These drills, sorry. So this is the one, and in the Cocobolo handle, we have got these. The original drill bits, and some not original ones, that came with the drill. And these are called Forets drill bits. Look at that. Boom, boom, boom. Watch. That's not going to do very well, is it? But essentially all you've got here is a little diamond shape on the end. Assuming it's actually straight, which a lot of these aren't, clean it up with a little fret rubber and replicate the bevels that you've already got. On the right hand side, you put just a bevel on there and one on there. Make sure that it meets nicely in the middle, test it, and you should be good. But I would say that I've never ever bothered doing that. I basically use modern drill bits in my beautiful old antique drill, because short of the academic interest of using an old Forets drill bit, modern ones are just so much better, so much more fit for task, as it were. Okay. To the point that I haven't actually taken a lot of these out since I've owned the drill bit. I don't think. Anyway. Questions. Ooh, Lisa's sending the email again. Okay. I need to check that. Best day with a guitar is the day you finish the first one. I agree. Any special considerations for a 12-string electric, please? This is from Lisa. I would say make the neck as strong and stable as you can get it. If you have the option, then use carbon fiber. Well, I personally wouldn't ever consider building a 12-string guitar without carbon fiber stiffening rods in the neck, period. I just wouldn't. So there is that. Now, a good quality dual action truss rod. Don't buy the cheapest one that you can get. And I personally would also say use a multi-laminate neck construction out of good quality dried wood. And the multi-laminate, having lots of different pieces of wood in there, makes the whole thing stronger. The glue joints make it stronger and more able to withstand issues. there's quite a lot of tension involved. Use a dual action truss rod emphatically, and also be very aware of your bridge placement. It's incredibly important, if at all possible. Mock it up physically with actual strings on before you bolt the bridge down, and make sure that everything intonates properly. Yeah. Okay. No, Will, I haven't seen Wristwatch Revival. I'm sort of avoiding the watch world at the moment. I have very poor self-control. And, yeah. Should I check it out? Let me... Hold on, where was that? There we go, I'll check that out. Nick Guitar, why isn't there a sanding drum bit with a bearing that can be put in the router or similar machine that can withstand side pressure? Okay, a router's far too fast, but I have seen standard, I think it was a user-made thing, but it's a standard sanding drum that you would get on a spindle sander, and somebody put a bearing on the top so that would follow the template and do the same sort of thing. I think that was supposed to go in a pillar drill at low speeds, and then you follow the bearing along, and it's a product that I've actually considered making in the past, because, you know, routers are scary. He says no drills. Yeah, pillar drill's your only option. Seriously, with that sort of a thing, you have to have a pillar drill. Gabrielle Retty, there we go. That was the lady who built the acoustic guitars, or builds acoustic guitars, with incredible marquetry and inlay work on the tops. You should check it out for sure. Okay. Come on then, looking for questions. Freestyle category, that's Gabrielle's category. Okay, Terry Love, off topic, not a hurdy-gurdy. How about building things like shamisen, which I've never heard of, or a sitar? Ever tried or seen somebody doing it on YouTube? I would consider doing a sitar. I've definitely considered doing an electric sitar. I just personally don't like the sound and have little inspiration to do that. I have got a hurdy-gurdy kit, 3 laser something that my sister bought me for laughs. That'll probably make its way into the channel at some point, or extras maybe, this channel. I'm really interested in going and doing the odd small project of making a lute. No, making a lute is not a small project. The odd small project of making a lyre or something like that, and going off-piste and doing other instruments, proper vintage instruments, antique instruments as it were, just for fun. So yes, that sort of thing could be great fun. Okay. Is beach good for a body? That's from Nick Bin. To a certain extent, bolted beach can be too soft and a bit thuddy, and I would say yes, very, very good for a body, but it will be a very heavy body in general, unless you put in a lot of chambers and route out a lot of material. But yes, it would be nice and solid and perfectly fine, in my opinion. VCS the Bone Cruncher says volutes are okay. If you can carve a neck, surely a volute should be okay. Yes, I'm not sure what the context is, but yes, I like volutes. We're considering doing some vintage inspired instruments at the moment, and it's an actual honest to goodness question the other day was, hey Ben, if we're going to do a Les Paul Junior style guitar as a production instrument, do we want to have dual action truss rods, carbon fiber stiffening rods, and a volute? I actually had to think about it. And yes, in the end, yeah, of course we do. You know, I might be doing a vintage inspired guitar that will look and sound like one, but I'm also not going to, we probably won't necessarily do the stiffening rods, but a small volute is necessary, I think. It doesn't have to be a major, massive thing like I do on a lot of my guitars, but just a little bit of extra strength there is not a bad thing. All right, Frugal Fix is saying, hey guys, what could be poured in my ABS molds for a guitar body? Any ideas? Not too heavy. Watch Peter Brown. He made something, he's a wood turner, fantastic YouTuber, and he made something called, oh, I can't remember. He basically has a resin that he adds a different stain to it and just goes like lava. Son of something something bowl or something like that. It's incredibly cool, and yeah, go for it. That would be awesome. Sweet Tea is saying WD Music in the States has really good truss rods and they're reasonably priced. Haha. Terry Love says, the Mongolians have a two-string thing referred to as a horsehead fiddle. Check out the group The Who. I have seen those before and thought they looked really, really cool. Oh, Graham B says, have you ever built a guitar that changed the way you play? Only in so much as every time I build a guitar for myself, I end up playing much more guitar for the next 6 to 8 weeks, just because I want to play more because I've got a cool new guitar. But in reality, no, my playing is rudimentary at best, and I'm not a musician, I'm just a builder. And it's, if I had a significant amount of time to put into it, it would be possibly a different story. Yeah, I mean, I've got a little bit better over the last 10 years or so, but yeah, one of those things. Okay, Vulcan Essen says, disaster! While pushing a knob on a pot in a recessed hole, wah! While pushing a knob onto a pot in a recessed hole, the wood gave way, and now there is a 1.5 centimeter hole. Fortunately, it is still smaller than the knob, but I wonder how to fix it. Okay, you should have led with at least it's smaller than the knob. Okay. Basically, you've still got the piece. It would have cracked relatively cleanly. I would take the potentiometer out, put the piece back in place, and maybe I would tape it in place from inside the control cavity with some masking tape. Okay, and make sure that you cover the whole area with masking tape so that no glue seeps through. I would then glue that in place. Probably best to use white glue, you know, wood glue, but in reality, super glue would do. And then you need to, after the fact, once that's cured, after that fact, go in and add some extra strength. And also, please, at this point, check how thick the wood is at the other any other controls you've got while you're about it. At that, I would then go in and glue in a veneer or two inside the control cavity to add strength, make that thicker. I mean, you can have 4 or 5 millimeters thick easily with standard pots, and then re-drill the hole through your extra veneer. That will give enough strength to be moving forward, and it should all be invisible. So, I mean, you dodged a bullet on that one. Like, yeah, that sounds bad. I've never quite experienced that. I've had similar issues, mainly with jack sockets and things, and guitars in transit being hit by people with forklifts. But yeah, not fun. Okay, so I should have a couple of emails to look at stream@crimsonguitars.com. To be honest, I haven't had my computer on all week. Craig Manson says, I can't avoid going to work any longer. Thanks for making Monday morning a bit easier. Bye all. See you tomorrow, Craig. Or, no, this must be Monday morning. Wow, where is it morning? Australia? I don't know. It's 9:20 in the evening in the UK. Trying to find all the good questions. Trying to find questions. Still 150 people watching, but at least we've got a few more likes. People talking about volutes and headstock brakes. I've just bought a Les Paul that has had a broken headstock, and yeah, I'm interested in seeing what that looks like when it gets here. I'm going to fix it, relic it, and then raffle it off, and we'll see. Well, relic, age. I'm going to be playing with the finish. Second note says, I managed to break a new Boss pedal tonight. I thought that was nearly impossible, but apparently not, lol. 6 a.m. Japan time from Bonehead Guitars. Crikey. VCS the Bone Cruncher makes a good point. Guitar mechanics aside, my left hand likes how volutes feel. I wouldn't want to be without. I agree. Fluid Focus is my first fan fret, made it vastly easier to relax while playing. I agree. My elbow no longer has to be held out away from my body to play comfortably. This is the thing. I don't play very much. When I do, I'm often chilling out late at night with the Kemper on, sort of collapsed in a chair, hunched over like this. So my playing is actually really bad, as much because I'm sitting on a sofa often, and it's just not particularly good. But anyway, we're there. Terry's coming with another super chat. Thank you very much, Terry. And says, question for question's sake. When are you going to be doing the new bench build? That is a good point. So we've got... I really do want the new bench to be something a little bit different, and I want to be utilizing the CNCs or laser, probably CNCs at Crimson, and maybe even release plans or a kit or something like that people can build themselves. But at the moment we are still a little bit delayed with tool making, etc. So this next week, pretty much all hands on deck is going to be making Crimson tools to get those orders out and finishing up various orders and things. So it's going to be a little while before we've got the time to do that. I, however, do now have a new, once that's done, a new employee who is specifically working directly with me in product development, and that's going to be one of the first things that we work on. So hopefully relatively soon, because I've got a new workshop area and I could do with not using this bench. Dusty Dark Horse has also come in with a super chat saying, trying to tear myself away from the new pup to be productive in the shop. Thanks for the procrastination fuel. Are you playing with a new puppy? That's just nothing better. absolutely nothing better. You don't need me as an excuse to stick around to that. Yeah. And Disco Stew has also come in with a super chat and says, what's the latest on the guitar rebrand? Are you launching a new range? I would love to see a big Crimson launch go live. YouTube would explode. I doubt YouTube would explode. Seriously, most people who watch the channel are not the sort of people who necessarily would buy a guitar. There's a small percent, of course, but most of you guys are builders who would just make your own. And, you know, I'm the same. I don't follow other guitar brands. I don't, until recently, I'm forcing myself to start buying guitars. But even so, I'm buying them and thinking, okay, I'm going to have this for 6 months and then sell it or raffle it or something, just so that I can experience a lot of other guitars and repair a lot of other guitars without worrying about customers, and move on. So yes, there is going to be a new range of guitars. I am working on all of this concurrently, but I really needed to fix Crimson first at heart. Now, I'm not entirely sure. I think I'm doing it the other way around. The logic of what I said was that customers aren't going to buy a £2,000, £3,000, £4,000 guitar necessarily from a company that is also a kit guitar manufacturer. Now, and I wanted to rebrand the guitars. What I've actually come around to is having the Crimson Custom Shop, which is, hey, what the channel is called for one, but also I am actually going to take the kit guitars and I'm going to rebrand the kit guitars. We are separating, as I said earlier, we're separating out the guitar builders and the production workshop. The production workshop are the people that make the Crimson tools and the kit guitars, and that's relatively industrial. It's still a small workshop, but it's relatively, okay, here's the CNC, poof, sand it, done, out the door. Utter quality, obviously, but it's a different team and it's a different set of people actually doing the building. It's the same people doing the designing and the CAD drawing and, you know, all that stuff. And managing the workshop as well, actually, initially at least. But the custom shop's going to be a different team of luthiers able to do anything. And that's it. So actually, I'm rebranding the kit guitars. I'm going to be creating a website just for the kits, and then crimsonguitars.com will be a retailer of that brand, essentially. And that solves the problem while also not taking Crimson off the guitars. Now, I don't like the current logo with the word Crimson inside the guitar shape. I'm going to keep the guitar shape, and we'll see. So it's, yeah, rebrand light, I suppose. We'll see. That's where I'm sitting at the moment. That is where I'm sitting at the moment. Luther for Build says, Ben, you have to be looking at Bob Raven's order. He needs his neck. The GGBO needs Bob ASAP. I didn't realize that he was waiting for one. Seriously, if any of you know of any GGBO contestants who are waiting for anything, please let me know. Okay, let us know, shop@crimsonguitars.com, but say, hey, Ben said you need to chase this up. Please do that. There's actually new people in there as well, come to think of it. But yeah, GGBO is very important. We are a couple of weeks away from being entirely up to date on every single order, kit guitars and tools entirely. Seriously, there's a new person working in wood prep who is just processing wood, which means that the CNC operators, which has been the up to this point, the CNC has been operated by the same person who does the wood prep. So there's a bottleneck there in how much can be produced. Now we've got two people there. They're producing far more wood than the CNC can actually utilize, and there's no more bottleneck. So that's something that we managed to finally get the right person in last week, pretty much. Yeah, in the last week or two, and it's all coming together. So, but GGBO needs to be ahead. Sweetie Guitar says, who wants to buy a guitar when you can build one? Exactly. Not I, my friend. I sold all of mine to finance the journey. Thanks for the inspiration. It's a pleasure. And yes, I think it's a reason why I spend my money on tools and watches and stuff. It's because I've wanted something outside of guitars to collect. And now, at this point, my excuse for collecting guitars is not that I want the guitar just to have the guitar, it's because I want the guitar to play a custom 24 versus a custom 22 to see why Paul did what he did. I want to play a Les Paul Jr. I honestly don't think I've ever actually sat down for anything more than a minute or two with an actual Les Paul Jr. Seriously. But I want to. So I'm going to buy one. And then I'm going to find all the faults with it, dissect it on YouTube, and then raffle it off, having experienced it for 6 months or so. And that's going to improve my guitar building, and that's the only reason that I can justify doing it right now. It's as research and development. How much money could I spend buying guitars that I could then claim back as research and development from the government? Probably quite a few, because it really is. I mean, it's a cut and dry R&D. I'm going to talk to my accountant. Anyway. Where are we? Where are we? Hour and a half, 9:30. Yeah. Slowing down. I feel like I'm slowing down. Babylon Knights says, any plan on discussing further on rounded frets? Are there any other types? Sorry if that or something was asked. No worries. I pretty much discussed it mostly in the video. That is the one option. You've got the semi-hemispherical fret ends, like I showed in there, and then you've got the more traditional fret ends where it's just an angle with a slightly rounded end. And it's all about comfort and what you find comfortable to play, really. But also how much time you are comfortable to spend doing frets. It's difficult. Kiwi Quarter says you should just call them Crowe, no E, guitars and use a bird symbol, like Prince did with his symbol for a while. I'm becoming a bit of a Prince fan, and I never was, because of that symbol stuff, because I didn't understand the story behind why he did it. I thought he was just a pretentious twat. He decided to change his name to a symbol for, the sake of being a pretentious twat. And recently I started getting into his music and realizing that I have missed so much, and that really sucks. And it was all an argument with a record label, and they're the pretentious twats. But anyway, if you don't know the history behind that, check it out, seriously. Yeah, I mean, that crossed my mind. It did cross my mind. But yeah, we'll see. Lisa Harshberger says, when will my bass go up for raffle? Okay, so the bass build will only be going live once I have finished the hand tool build, potentially. I think that's the plan. It may well change, but essentially the second that the bass build goes live on the YouTube channel, on the main YouTube channel, the raffle will commence and people will be able to buy tickets and we'll go from there. But at the moment, that's my buffer that I'm using. I've never had a whole guitar build or a whole instrument build in the bag before, filmed and ready to go live. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how that works out. Paul Davies says, want to buy mine, Ben? I'm a bit strapped. Lol, I've over 20. That's Paul Davies. Drop me an email. I'm particularly... Okay, so seriously, if any of you have some interesting guitars, I'm particularly interested in paying trade prices, but I'm interested in interesting guitars. I'm interested in name guitars, PRS, Gibsons, good Fenders, bits and pieces like that, stuff I haven't necessarily experienced, but also things that would be interesting to take apart on camera and say, okay, look, here is a 2002 Gibson Les Paul. This is what they were doing to build this guitar. These are the pickups. This is what the pickups, how strong they were. This is what that looks like. Here's the neck joint. As much as you can see on a Les Paul, the headstock angle is correct. This is the shoddy finishing on the binding, etc., etc., etc. There are many guitar reviews on YouTube, but none that do that I've seen. None that actually take it apart and say, this is how they've done that. This is why it's only an 800 quid guitar or whatever. But I'm doing it from the point of view of teaching myself what they're doing, but it's also going to be really interesting, I think, for you guys. So yeah, but seriously, Paul, drop me an email, stream@crimsonguitars.com, and I need to check those emails, but yeah, we can talk, I'm sure. Divergent Guitar says, timely greetings, Luthiers. Apologies for my tardiness. I had an unexpected midday nap. How's everybody? Suddenly a little bit more tired than I was beforehand, Divergent Guitars. Although I did buy a new pillow today. I mistakenly thought that walking around IKEA with my wife and 3 children would somehow be less stressful now that they're all a little bit more grown up. No, it was not. Okay. Alrighty. Mr. Waffles asks if the fret end files are in stock. They should be. They absolutely should be. I asked about it on Thursday, and yes, they're in stock. Now, if they're not available on the website, drop them an email and say, "Oi, Ben said these were in stock," because they should be. Justin Cowley says, I'd love to see an updated video on your oils and finishing products. So many to choose from. I would like to see use cases in protecting the finish afterwards. That is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. Now, my issue has always been that I felt that it was a waste of my time, whether I enunciated that or not. I felt that it was a waste of my time, me doing something like that, when it's not actually on a whole guitar. And I always thought, oh, I'll use every finish on every guitar, but it's taking forever. I really just need to sit down with 10 different pieces of samples of wood and go through all of the finishes and a lot of different stain colors and techniques and things and make a bunch of videos. They'll probably all go on the extras channel, but it will. Okay. A lot of people saying that Prince was an amazing person and an amazing guitarist, etc., 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 and I agree. And it literally, when I started getting into proper guitar music, I entirely discounted him because I had some stupid notion of who he was as a person. That was just, yeah, bullshit, really. Ooh, semi-hemispherical fret ends. Somebody did give me an incredible tip in the video. They say that what they do is they make the semi-hemisphere, etc., on one end of the fret before they install it. and they make sure that that end is absolutely fine, and they tap that in, and then they've only got the insanity of doing the other end on the guitar itself. Now, I was really struggling with the idea. It would be better to do both ends of the fret and absolutely perfectly fit it to size, but it's also, there's just, you know, but doing one half and then installing that perfectly and then going and snipping the other end off and getting that to size, that is the best, in my opinion, way to do it. So there we go. That's a tip that I'd actually forgotten reading. I'm so super excited about that. Morgana Innovation says, nearing time for me to go put the last touch-up coat of primer on my build. Already put together a temporary spray booth up on my balcony using old PVC from Drone Race Gates. Your life sounds so much cooler than mine. Okay. Now, once upon a time, ha, okay, I just lost something, somebody talking about wood. Oh, Trogly's Guitar Show does that with Gibsons. I hadn't seen that, which is, this is the problem, he puts out so many videos, or at least there's always, I don't know, I don't follow guitar YouTube as much as I should. David King, drop me an email. Jeff's guitars, yes. At some point, I'd like to do a resonator guitar. Go211 says, hi Ben, enjoying the new range of wood on the shop, but when are the carved top blanks coming online, please? Wood prep guys currently doing a lot of prep for kit guitars and things like that, but we are going to be cracking on. There will be carved top blanks, there will be fretboards, pre-slotted, pre-radiused fretboards as well. There's going to be all sorts of stuff on there. But yeah, at some point what I'm hoping to do is, with both the vintage tool shop and the wood, we're going to have a drop where probably actually on Sunday evenings while we're doing the live stream, all of the new stock will drop and you'll have 300 new vintage tools go live, or yeah, actually about 300, 350, hopefully, every week. And then a bunch of new wood will go live on the same day at the same time, so everybody could have a chance to be first to pick that pretty piece. So there we go. Okay. I'm running low on energy, guys. And I'm running out of questions. Okay, Bernard says, what's the advantage of jumbo frets? I don't get why people want them, because their hero used them, because that's what they've always used. It stops the pad of your finger touching the fretboard, reduces friction a little bit, and or a lot. But yeah, I personally agree. I prefer slinkier frets myself. So, but it is one of those things. Driftwood Guitars actually cuts name brand acoustic guitars up and gives his opinion on how they are built. Does he seriously do that? I've watched a few of their videos. I actually have clicked on a few of their videos and I've always been impressed, but I have not seen something like that. Cool. Okay, now Paul, the Triple Moon t-shirts were apparently made live last week. Search under tattoo, potentially. They should be on the website. If they're not under the merch, this is the problem. So we've got so many people doing so many different things that stuff is not being done properly. And yeah, Crimson Tattoo t-shirts is, yeah, it is up there on the website. It's my favorite shirt. I've been wearing these all week, but it's under all products for some reason. Okay, fair enough. Let's see what's happening on wow, Ricky just sent me a very pretty picture of a top on is that the website? Yeah, this yeah, some beautiful stuff. Okay. Driftwood are not comparing like with like. They're they're comparing production run guitars with their own hand-built ones. That's a very good point. But yeah, I mean, there's like 20 grand or so. I did enjoy watching him taking that truss rod out of a neck that had a major issue with the truss rod, StewMac truss rod that broke, basically. Just to name drop, but yeah. No, Lisa, we're not going to that, I'm afraid. SM Myers asked me if I've tried polymerized tung oil, low, medium and high sheen, harder than boiled linseed but just as satiny a feel. Unlike boiled linseed, the sheen doesn't dull. I haven't in a long time, but I do actually want to add tung oil to the website. And yeah, I've been I'm going to look into that. Thank you for the comment. Okay, now Rosa Stringworks, I've also seen their work. Okay, look, I'm actually going to call this a night, everybody. It's been coming up on 2 hours, which tends to be my absolute limit. I'm going to be back here at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, unless any questions come through while I'm doing my sum up. I will be back here at 11 o'clock UK time tomorrow morning, where I'm going to be finishing building the bass guitar and potentially even... well, I'm not going to promise anything else. But we'll see what happens. At the very least, I'm going to answer more questions. Big Unit's asking how soon GGBO shirts will ship. I signed up and ordered right away. See, I heard that you still hadn't had a t-shirt last week, and that confused me because we've had them in stock for a long time now. It sounds like something has gone wrong. I've now completely forgotten what what actually came of that conversation. I just know we talked about it. So yeah, please email shop@crimsonguitars.com and say, hey yo, Ben said. Patrick Nesbo says, would you at Crimson mod guitars for your customers like Hutchinson Guitars takes customer owned instruments and does these incredible concepts with them? Yes, absolutely. 100%. Well, what do you have in mind? And that's it. I think we're all good. Yeah, I've got a couple of Les Pauls that I've bought recently, and the plan with those is to do two different types of aging on them. One, I'm going to do the whole Tom Murphy with the razor blade aging of the nitro, and with the other one, I'm going to use temperature and hot and cold and force checking and we'll see what happens there. But yeah, with other bits and pieces, King appearance, anyone? Why not? No, we'll see. Thank you very much for watching. You guys are fantastic as ever. I really do appreciate your support. The questions and comments and sheer awesomeness of this community never fails to put a smile on my face. I'll see you tomorrow morning if you're about. If not, have a fantastic week. I hope you get to make some sawdust. And yeah, keep well, people. I'll see you soon. I'm sure I will. Goodbye now.